4.054.016.
Looking at the budget for fiscal 17 for the district, as we go through this, we need to keep in mind that our enrollment dropped 39 students from October of 14 to October of 15. As such, there's some money in there for the budget guarantee. List taxes levied on property at just over $3 million. Income surtaxes at $163,000. Instruction, a little over $5 million, almost $5.5. Support services at 2.39. Total requirements at 10.46 million. Proposed tax rate, combined proposed tax rate is 13.37. Traditionally, Greens is a little bit higher than that. The traditional Green districts is a little higher than that. Traditional Allison district is a little lower than that, and that's due to the general obligation bonds. We only bond for about $70,000 to $75,000 of that. The other $200,000 of the general obligation bond comes out of the 1 cent sales tax. Otherwise, there'd be a larger disparity there. We do have an instructional support levy of about $423,000. We have the voted fiscal plant and equipment levy of $166,266. We have an income surtax. I think it's 0.5 on that. Let's see. Our valuation of our district is $248,157,606. If you take out the gas and utilities on that, it's $243,927,456. Let's see. Yeah, that's just the bond. It shows that total obligation for fiscal 17 that's due is $274,333, and that we only tax for the $74,333, and that the other $200,000 comes out of the 1 cent sales tax. We do have a cash reserve levy. It works out to be just under $400,000, or actually it's right at $400,000. $180,897 that comes from the SBRC, and then we levy for $219,103, and then we have the instructional support levy. There's $177,210.
Any public comments?
What's so on the one published in the paper, it's had a tax rate of 13.72, and you said 13.37.
Yep.
What's the difference there?
When we published in the paper, we didn't have the rate yet, so we published at a 0% increase. And then after that was published in the paper, the legislature and the governor signed. The legislature passed, and then the governor signed the 2.25% increase. So that lowers the tax rate.
So do you have the Allison and Green tax rates broke out?
No, the state breaks those out for us after we send all this in.
Usually there's a difference of about 50 cents.
I think it was about 53 cents if I remember right. It's not a lot, and then that does go away at the end of, I think it's fiscal 21. I think we got 5 years left on that, and then we'll go back to being even, and life will be easy because we'll only have to worry about one set of aid and levy papers.
Oh, duh, I have it in
Yeah.
front, excuse me.
Yeah, we worked through that.
So this year it was about 60 cents difference, correct?
60 cents.
58.
I think been right around there the last 2 or 3 years, because we looked here the other day, and it was all right there in the same. Some of it depends a little bit on what the valuation of the district has done too. And the valuation of the district has gone up a little bit, not quite like it had a few years ago.
So last year, green was at $12.94, correct? You just-
Yep.
Yep.
So we're looking at, somewhere in the neighborhood of at least probably a 70 cent per thousand
Probably somewhere in there.
increase.
Yeah. And that's because of the budget guarantee.
In addition to, valuations went up. That seems like a large increase. I guess I don't ever remember jumping 70 cents, in the past. Is it?
It's
I mean, what's-
it's because of the loss in enrollment,
Okay.
and because of our enrollment went down so much. If we don't levy for the budget guarantee, then our budget's gonna cut by about $270,000, and we'd have to make those reductions mostly in staff.
That's 100%
So-
property tax.
So
Yeah.
most of that budget guarantee, or all of that budget.
All that budget guarantee is property tax.
is made up in property tax.
Correct.
Okay. So that accounts for some, but, also, the cash, levy of 400,000, I think it was 400,000 a year ago, but what is the reason, I guess, for such a large, cash reserve levy?
It helps us keep pace with, like, when we get the authority from the SBRC, when we got the 217,000, and then when we get the,
How much was it from the SBRC?
it was 217 something, I think.
Money.
It was whatever our balance was negative.
That's.
And
it's been modified.
then we had the special ed deficit, and we get authority, but we don't get cash, so we have to get that cash to come back and back that up.
And the rest of the cash is filled, so we don't have to borrow money
Yeah.
from the bank to make it through the summer.
So a lot of it is going towards funding the increase in your spending.
It backs up our spending authority, yeah.
I guess when the board's making decisions on those type of things, for your modified or allowable growth, and, you're coming in with a deficit, on your special ed, do they realize those dollars are being made up, not from the state, but from the taxpayer?
I think everything comes back to the taxpayer, because the state really isn't living up to their end of anything right now.
Sure, but a lot
They
of,
haven't for the last, I don't know how many years.
a lot of the dollars in the budget come from the state, which, yeah, indirectly it comes from the taxpayer, but I guess, have you made it aware to the board, when you apply for that modified allowable growth, or to fund that deficit, those dollars are coming directly from the local taxpayers?
I'm almost positive that we've had those questions asked when we've done that.
I guess I was just asking that question, if they're aware that it's just not state dollars, you're asking for, that's money that's coming directly from the local taxpayers.
Yeah, I didn't realize that at first with the special ed, when we first applied for the special ed deficit, that I didn't know where it was coming from, but we talked through it, but it was kind of, what other option do you have at that point to fund that money? Is
Well,
that-
same with the modified allowable
Right.
growth. I mean, it's great that it increases your spending authority,
Yeah.
but, it has to be backed up
Right,
by cash, and that's coming from, not from the state coffers, it's coming from,
yep,
you know.
Yeah, but the other side of that, Joy, is if we don't do those things, then we have to take things away from our kids.
Yeah.
We used to have it way higher, I thought in Allison at one time, maybe I'm wrong.
And my understanding is that next year the taxes will go down.
The budget guarantee will go away next year, that's a one-year thing.
No.
Well, I guess my concern was that the board was just aware that, you know, when you're looking at spending those monies, it's, you know, it's local. And that's quite a jump, a 70-cent jump on that. I don't ever remember it being that large in one year. And that was just a concern to myself that,
Nearly all of that is the budget guarantee.
yeah. I didn't know where it was coming from, but that's why I was here, to find out and get my questions answered, I guess, on that. So.
Yeah, I'm just glad they gave us something so we didn't have to go where we posted it in the paper.
Okay, thank you.
I get that in my bill too.
I'm afraid mine might even be larger than yours.
Well, probably.
Any other public comments?
Just closing.
Okay, the hearing is now closed. And then are there any changes to the agenda for tonight? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? I'll make a motion to approve it. A second.
I'll second it.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Review and approve the minutes for March 17th, 2016. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes from the other meeting? Motion to approve them?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
A second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Financial reports.
If you look at the general fund cash flow year-to-date, we've received about 68.95% of our funds. We've spent out about 63.96%. Total disbursements in general fund are $4.1 million. We're still, I think, $70,000 or something, whatever it was last month, or just a little bit less than that ahead of last year at this point, so. Financial reports, we have, as of the end of March, general fund, we have a cash balance of just over $1 million. Capital, $554,995, 1 cent sales tax, $562,646. Debt service, balance of $37,641. Management, $144,030. Nutrition fund has a balance of $86,000. Activities, $148,535. And then you have the trust and agency and the CDs down there, $40,000 in trust and agency, and CDs total about $110,000. There has been a few disbursements made since this out of the 1 cent sales tax that will get paid back in at some point when we get the money back from the state, correct? Or some of them, anyway.
So,
Some of them.
Does this show those bonds being paid?
not, this is the end of March.
This is the end of March, no,
So
they'll
that'll
be paid.
show, that shows up in our February board bills listed.
So
So,
they,
So it'll show off here at the end of this month because it's gonna be paid on the 15th, correct?
okay.
Any other questions on the financial report? Motion to approve them?
Make a motion.
And a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Public items of discussion. Nothing? Okay. Board items of discussion. Fast testing results.
Our fast testing data, Mr. Foster will pull up, is not what I'm most excited to share about tonight. If you remember, this is the assessment that the state mandated that we do some form of literacy assessment that would be reported, and this is the one that's tied to all the retention pieces and the summer school components. There's different tests that you can give, and the one that we went with for starters was the FAST CBM, and really all that tests is reading fluency. And so it's how quickly a child can read. So in grades 2 through 6, that's really what they're tested on, is they have 3 one-minute passages that they read fluently. The test proctor is marking how many words they make errors on, and then at the end of the minute, they're marking where they ended off, and the computer calculates for us how many words per minute they're supposed to get. This chart actually shows the number of kids proficient, so there's a lot of grades that we're not very happy with. 5th and 6th grade did not take the test last year, so this is kind of their first go-around, so we don't really have anything to compare to. Like any assessment, it's really hard when you have a cut score, because I know when the teachers look at the data, they'll look at that and they'll go, yeah, but Amy, you know, only 38% of the kids were proficient, but some of those kids can read really well. They're a little slow, but they're not like snail's pace, and they read really accurately as far as not making many errors, and they can answer comprehension questions and so on. Likewise, sometimes you get the other end of it where teachers will say, well, yeah, this kid's proficient, they can read like a flash, but they don't comprehend one thing they read. So this is just one test, that's one indicator. But our scores are very frustrating, and we have looked at possibly doing fast A reading next year instead for grades either 2 through 6 or 3 through 6. And what that is a computerized comprehension test. So the kids would then be able to read at their own pace. It could take them 2 hours if they so chose to take that much time. But teachers are saying, I think we get a better score of what's really important, that they are reading accurately and they can comprehend. When I've talked to other administrators, they say there's some schools that have done both, and they've said it's really 6 and 1/2 dozen of another, that some kids do better on one, some kids do better on other, and unfortunately we can't say to the state, we're going to pick the one that they do the best on. You have to say in the summer which one you're going to do and then use those scores. So as we analyze these scores, because I think that's the most important part of it, is not just looking at how many are proficient, how many are not, is what we need to do moving forward. Some conversations that we've had at the elementary are, okay, so we've got a lot of kids that are not proficient, so what kind of interventions are we doing to help them improve, to help, you know, I guess just improve our test scores. And that's a component that teachers are not feeling very strong in, is interventions of, how do we do small group instruction when we have, you know, 4 kids that have this need and not the other 16, or, you know, we've got 4 kids really, really low, you know, 4 or 5 more that are kind of low, and then we've got the rest that are on or above grade level. How do we make that all work? So that's one thing that we've spent a lot of time talking about with how we're going to implement that next year. Not that we're not working on it now, but how are we going to change what reading instruction looks like at the elementary, because doing all whole group instruction no longer works. And I'm not sure it ever did, but now it matters, because test scores matter more now than they did 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So that's one thing we're looking really closely at. Our reading curriculum is very outdated, 10, 12 years old in the elementary. And it was interesting when we ordered samples of the new series that are out there, the new copyrights. The first thing the teachers all said, I mean, it was almost in unison when they looked at them, when they said, this is hard. And we said, yeah, our curriculum is a lot easier than what's out there today. So schools that are doing newer curriculums are, you know, the ante has been really upped as to what's expected, and we have not risen to that same level of expectations. So I would not look, if we adopt new curriculum tonight, I would not look that scores are going to change quickly. They say sometimes it takes 3 to 5 years, but I know teachers, in looking at the curriculum, have said this is going to be a steep step for our kiddos next year, because it's a lot harder. You always hear the jokes on, you know, you see them on Facebook and teacher websites about, you know, preschool is the new kindergarten, and it really is. What's expected in preschool is now what used to be expected in kindergarten. So not excited about the scores. It has also really made us look as a staff about what's adequate growth. Because, you know, it used to be that we get our test scores back and we go, oh, phew, every kid made growth. Well, now we've really looked hard at what's appropriate growth, because making 2 or 3 points growth is not good enough. You know, we should be looking for 30 points growth or 35 points growth. And so it really opened some good conversation about where we should be. Mr. Foster, would you scroll back up to the top? Yes, not on there. Oh, gotcha. Would you go back to the board website then? And there should be a link about what the trajectories are, what they should be scoring. So Heather's looking.
What you call it?
Fast something, you might have to refresh because I'm not seeing it.
I just see fast data.
Fast benchmarks?
Yes, thank you. And if you scroll down to the bottom, on the left, higher, sorry, the bottom of the first page, I apologize. So the bottom left corner is the fast CBM data, and that's the cut scores for what's expected. So if you look at like 6th grade, for example, in the fall, they should be reading 141 words per minute. And in the winter, it should be 158, and in the spring, 171. So that's when I talk about how we've had the conversation of, you can't just say, oh, well, my kids made growth, because, you know, really, unless they made that 15 points growth or 16 or whichever grade level you're talking about, it's not adequate. And the other thing that we've talked a lot about is those kids that are non-proficient, we have to be expecting that adequate growth plus some, or they're not going to close that achievement gap. So that's opened a lot of eyes, and we've had a lot of conversation about that. We've also spent a lot of time looking at other subject areas. So when you look at, you know, the way our 5th and 6th grade is departmentalized, you know, 5th and 6th grade teachers going, oh, you know, I knew my kids were struggling in social studies or science or English or whatever subject matter, even reading, music, all of them, and saying, you know, I knew they were a struggling reader, but I didn't know they were that low. So it's really, you know, or some of the kids that are non-proficient are barely non-proficient, but nonetheless, whether it's 1 minute or 1 word off, they're not proficient if they don't hit that cut score. So you also need to know in kindergarten, it shows at the top chart, they're not tested on those 3 1-minute passages like 2nd grade through 6th grade are, because they're not typically proficient at actually reading passages yet. So they are tested on the things such as concepts of print. You know, do they know that you read left to right? Do they know where the top of a book is? Things like that. Beginning word sounds, letter names, letter sounds, how to segment words, non-segment, you know, sight words, those kind of things. So we go with their composite score that's listed down at the bottom. So we know that we have a lot of work to do. I think everyone in the elementary is well aware. The first year you take the test, you kind of go, oh, well, it's the first time we took it. We didn't know what to expect. Everybody in the state, I mean, there were schools that when we first took it the first year that 90% of their kids were non-proficient. I don't think we're alone in many regards. But I'm not pleased with the improvement that we're not making. So that's where we are heading, and I think the awareness has been raised, and that's where we're going. So Heather, do you have anything to add to that maybe I missed in my ramblings?
A couple of really small things. When you looked at that chart of benchmarks and you look at our proficiency scores, so if a class was at 84% and they dropped to 80% proficiency, that doesn't mean the kids didn't learn.
Right.
It didn't improve. I mean, it's still not great, we know that. But it is pretty tough to continue to grow and that much, by that big of steps, and continuously. So just know that the steps continue to get bigger and go on up. Also know that it doesn't compare to Iowa assessments directly. So just because we're at 80% in Iowa assessments, this is a completely different test, and just to be aware of that. And to know that we are looking at adding a comprehension section next year, the A reading, because we, like everybody else knows, and the elementary teachers would also be very aware of this, looking just at fluency, it's a good indicator of who's a good reader and who's not, but it's not the be-all, end-all. There's a lot of kids that read more slowly, but they still comprehend very well. And so we'd like to do the A reading also to kind of get a bigger, better picture of our readers.
one of the concerns with A reading that gets brought up sometime is that A reading is a computerized test. So the nice thing about the FAST assessment is it's one-on-one. The instructor's sitting right there with them giving the test, and the A reading is done on the computer. So we find it with STAR once in a while where a teacher will come to me and say, Mrs. Wedeking, we took that STAR test and Susie Joe finished the test in 7.2 minutes, and it should take about 20. So, that'll be something that we'll have to monitor really carefully is how well the kids are taking it, because, we all know on a computer it's pretty easy to click through, and once they've tested, they've tested. So it's one of those too of, at least this way when we did it one-on-one with the kids, even though, yes, it's only testing fluency, which is there's a strong correlation between fluency and comprehension. We did know, we had that vibe of, yeah, they really gave it their all. Or we could see things too, like, every once in a while, you'll see a kid's score stay stagnant. But as the tester, I can say, you know what? They got lost when they were reading, and they had to go back, and they lost 15 seconds because they messed up, and they lost their place. And so there are things like that when we give the test one-on-one that we're able to also, it doesn't change their score, it doesn't fix it, but at least we have an answer to it of maybe what happened.
So this FAST test, it was, the students were reading to a teacher.
Yes.
Because I was saying with my daughter back in 2nd grade, they're like, your kid can't read, she's struggling because my kid is so quiet.
Right.
That when they would have her read to the teacher, I mean, she was reading like 10 words a minute because she's
Right.
so, quiet.
Nervous or
When
quiet.
she takes the computer's
Yep.
test, I mean, she's really high.
Exactly.
I mean, she's like 2 grades above where she should be, so I
Yep.
just don't agree with those results 100%.
And we don't either. I mean, there are definitely some kids' scores that come back that the teachers will say, yep, unfortunately, that's where they're at, and we're really working hard because this is all of our kids, this is our special needs kids, this is our, everybody, that they'll say, yeah, unfortunately, that they really are a struggling reader, and then there's others that will go, that surprises me. So we also do other things. We have 3 to 4 people that administer the test. Mrs. Holm does it, I do it, Mr. Luderman does it, and Mrs. Shaver does it. And so, we feel like it's very non-biased as far as, nobody's maybe getting more nudges than they should. But we also give the teachers the opportunity that, oh gosh, if this kid already works with Mrs. Shaver and they're comfortable with her, let her give the test to them. Or, if I have a good relationship with a student, then maybe I'll give the test so that they feel more comfortable as much as possible. And, every once in a while we'll get a teacher that'll say, not Mr. Luderman, not because he's not a great guy, but I think my daughter will be nervous with a male. It's just, so we really do try to make those matches as best we can. But, so,
Didn't you say there was a piece there that they have to be proficient 2 tests in a row before they count proficient too?
yes, yeah, that's the hard part too, is that it can go both ways. So if a child scores non-proficient, let's say the very first time they take the test, if they score non-proficient, the state just says they're at risk. The next time if they score proficient, they say, good job, okay? If the first time they score non-proficient and then they score non-proficient again, then they're considered substantially deficient, which is when you get the gold letter that I usually put it on that says, hey, they're not where they should be. To become unsubstantially deficient or to become proficient, you have to be proficient twice in a row. So if they've been non-proficient and they're substantially deficient, they not only have to score proficient once, but then they have to do it again. The hard part with that is summer is usually in between there somewhere. So when kids don't read a lot over the summer, sometimes that can be a glitch that, because we'll have quite a few kids who won't read proficiently in the fall, that we really work hard and get them caught up, and then the next summer again, they sometimes fall. So yeah, there is that catch in there of being proficient or non-proficient twice in a row. So.
But the other test you're looking at is the test more of understanding what they read instead of just reading fast, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we as a district have to submit in the summer when we do our C plan of what test we're going to use to indicate. So we have to say we're going to use the comprehension test, the A reading, or we have to say we're going to use the fast fluency, or we can say we're going to use fast fluency for K2 and we're going to use the comprehension test for 3-6, and that's kind of more what we're looking at is maybe doing a balance, and then whatever it is we have to stick to it. So you can't say, oh well, we're just going to see if they're proficient on one or the other. You have to indicate which one is going to be your test of choice, so to speak.
Can I ask a question on that?
What was that?
Can I ask a question on that? I just wanted to know how long summer school is if they do fail.
It's supposed to be 75 hours.
Mhm.
There's some other things that they can do in lieu of summer school, I think, isn't there? Or is that the big one?
That's the big one.
And that's if they don't pass the
Yeah.
reading thing?
Oh, yeah,
If-
summer school is the one that they can do in lieu
Well-
of being retained.
Yeah, that's at the end of third grade.
So what is the purpose of reading fast? I mean, why, you know, because with my daughter,
It's just a
she,
screening test
Right.
right now, so they can try to catch the kids who they think are going to need extra help. It's not diagnostic at all, it's just, we think these are the kids that are gonna have trouble reading. Let's identify them quickly and then try to get them extra help with what it is that they need. So that's really the only purpose of this test, it's just a screening.
Right. And the kids that are non-proficient on it, the kids that are non-proficient on it, are supposed to be getting interventions and are having weekly progress monitoring. So their teachers are testing this every week so we can see, oh, are the things that we're doing making, helping them make progress? And if they're not, that's when they should be bringing them to our student assistance team saying, hey, here's the deal. I know their FAST scores are low, and as were their Iowa assessments or their STAR data, and this is what I've been doing with them. I've been working on them in a small group extra. They've been seeing Mrs. Shaver some extra, and god darn, they're just not making the progress we need. And that's when we get together and we try to problem solve and brainstorm and see, what other interventions can we be doing? So after reviewing this data and looking at it, because with the scores that we have, it's an indicator of, it's a bigger problem than just some kids needing some interventions. It's really a problem with our core instruction. I mean, if you have that many kids not scoring proficiently, it's not just that you have a handful that need extra help. It's a bigger curriculum issue, which is why I firmly believe we need a new reading curriculum. But we're also proposing tonight what's kind of called an intervention program, and it's called SIPS, and it's a phonics-based, rigorous phonics program to do with kids. And we're going to start out and do it with probably about 80% of our kids so that we can close that achievement gap. And Heather and I took teams of people to look at that they use it at Hampton Dumont as well as at a couple of the schools at Waverly Shellrock, and they've had good progress with it. So we'll work with the kids in smaller groups. We will ability group them so that they're getting targeted instruction right at their level for 30 minutes a day. So we're hoping that will make a difference as well. So that'll be in the reading proposal tonight.
okay.
So as the parents, the parents are aware of what's happening now that next summer, their kid
They should be.
could be at summer school.
I do not put it in every newsletter
Are the
because,
teachers talking to the ones that are on the lower end as well?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that'll be a room full of people. Otherwise
Absolutely.
saying, we don't
Yes.
know, and why is our kid going,
yes. Mhm.
okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because the governor thinks it's okay to implement a program.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying.
Right,
And
That's,
not giving us
you know,
money.
right, right.
We just need to make sure that everybody knows, because, that'll fill a gym.
Absolutely, and it will across the state, because
Yeah.
it's a statewide thing. I will say that, although I don't have like a whole lot of research sitting here saying this, that I'm very grateful that we continue to keep the transitional kindergarten program, because even though the numbers in that are not large, there are oftentimes kids that we know leaving preschool need another year of preschool instead of pushing them on to kindergarten, and I would much rather give them that year of growth when there's not as much stigma attached, as opposed to, a parent in third grade saying, well, they're below grade level and, they're gonna be held back in third grade.
And that class this year is 12 kids, so they're getting a lot more individualized help. And next year, I think we're looking at 9 or 10.
We're around 9 or 10, yeah, there's a few families on the fence, so. But interestingly enough, when you look at this data with kindergarten scores, the 69%, the 74%, that includes the transitional kindergartners in there, because they are considered kindergartners, so their data is mixed in with this as well, so. Excuse me.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Levitt.
You're welcome, thank you.
Okay, next, approve the fiscal year 17 budget, and we have to do a roll call.
Yeah, we just need to go ahead and approve the budget as presented earlier.
So I've got a motion and second.
A motion to approve it.
How much?
Second.
I'll second.
Christie,
Yes.
Baden,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Liz,
Yes.
thank you.
So moved. And then next, approve the budget guarantee.
It's in the. And that's just a resolution.
That's just the resolution and the motion needs to be stated as such, right?
Yes.
And the budget guarantee, that just keeps our budget where it was at for this year, so we don't define at 270,000, 275,000.
May I get a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget. I got it on the screen. Do I have to read that whole thing?
Just the top part.
Just top right now.
Resolve that part?
Yeah.
That the Board of Directors of North Butler Community School District will levy property tax for fiscal year 2016-17 for the regular program budget adjustment as allowed under Iowa Code Section 257.14.
May I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Liz,
Yes.
Christie,
Yes.
Laura,
Yes.
Bobby. Thank you.
Approve the purchase of the reading curriculum materials and purchase teaching materials,
Heather put this into a nice spreadsheet. The prices were all broke out, but this is everything kind of in a nutshell here. We have Houghton Mifflin is the Journeys for grades K through 6 for $50,472.20. Pearson for 712 English Language Arts at $25,522.45. The SIPS program through Center for Collaborative Classrooms for K-6 is at $27,940. McGraw-Hill Wonders for the transitional kindergarten, and that's so that they are not using the same program 2 years in a row at $3,141.27. The Lexia Core Interventions for $5,500 for a total of $112,575.92. Most of this will be a fiscal 17 purchase. We will order the teaching materials if approved so that the teachers can have them to take home with them over the summer so they don't have to rush getting through the stuff and planning. So, the teachers started receiving sample materials in September or October. They spent a lot of time going through the materials. How many different sets did you look at, Heather?
Well, we ordered 5, but I did the initial look through and so the teachers looked at 2.
And they spent a lot of time going through and making sure that the curriculum that they decided on met their needs as far as what they do in the classroom, the Iowa Core, and different interventions and the technology that we have in place in the district.
My only question, and I'm in full support of the transitional kindergarten, is that what would we do with the material for transitional kindergarten? Say we decided we didn't have enough money to have that extra class or enough students. Do we feel pretty secure in that to spend that much? I mean, it's $3,141, but this will just be our second year, which, I mean, I agree they need.
I think right now, with the benefits that we're seeing out of it with this first group, I think it's something that we really need to be careful about eliminating.
Yeah,
At
I'm not
some
saying
point,
eliminating.
I think it's really been, I have a child in that classroom. I've talked to several other parents with children in that classroom. Yeah, and just the difference that it's made in their progress is incredible. I think it's definitely beneficial, and I think it's some type.
And it's sustainable is really what I'm asking.
I think so at this point it is. And I've got an email actually from another superintendent. They sent it to all the superintendents in our conference. And there's only about 2 schools in our conference now that don't offer some sort of transitional kindergarten. And they offer it as a transitional kindergarten because that way then we can collect for those kids.
Right. And I understand having it, but a different material, because if they're not really catching it in kindergarten, wouldn't it be good to go over it again, like as a review, so they get it? I don't understand why we need different material.
I think both series teach the same skills. I mean, they're teaching the Common Core in kindergarten, no matter which textbook series we choose. We just chose the one that we thought best met our needs. But the idea of having a different one in the transitional kindergarten is that they're not gonna read the same stories again the next year. So, yes, they're still gonna go over letters and beginning letter sounds and ending letter sounds, but, you know, the first story in this series might be The Little Red Hen, the first story in this series might be Goldilocks and the Three Bears, so that when they go to kindergarten the following year, they don't go, I've already read this, you know, and then, oh, I've already read this one, you know,
And even
so.
if we order the same materials for the transitional kindergarten, you're still gonna have the added cost because you gotta order the extra materials.
Right, yeah, we'd have to order more kindergarten materials
Yes.
if we ended up doing all journeys, so.
And then my question on the Rosetta Stone, can you explain that a little better?
The Lexia Core.
It's not when you're thinking of the foreign language purchase, it's called Lexia Core 5. And I guess I looked at it seriously because it's one of the ones that is recommended by the Iowa Department of Education for use in the summer school program. They reviewed it, they looked really closely at the research, and there's only 5 of those programs that they've recommended. So I think, one, it's really good for us to look at to see if it could be a small component of what we want to do in the upcoming summer school. And I also think we want different layers to our intervention. So we have the SIPS program that our teachers can do with the students. And then the Lexia, since it's an online program, can be used at the different centers in the classroom. If the teacher's working with a small group, then it's something the students can do independently with an iPad or a Chromebook. So I guess we just thought it was a good choice and well-researched, and maybe would give us a leg up for summer school next year.
I mean, you're looking at summer school. I mean,
So
that's what I'm saying, you're looking at summer school.
Well,
Do we
need-
we'll have to. I
Right.
mean, we're always going to have some kids that are not
Right.
proficient. I mean, that's just.
Right.
If we could purchase some materials that are dual purpose here, that'd be great.
Yeah, you have to, it's something that you have to review even before the next summer.
And by having a head start in materials, and then we'll have this better.
Well, I think part of it is the more interventions that we can do with the kids, the better off we're going to be, you know, and we've got the academic interventionist at the elementary now, which is Mrs. Shaver. And then we have the Title I also, and if they're doing different things also, you know, that's just more things that those kids are getting. You know, if they qualify for Title I, Mrs. Shaver works with the kids that don't qualify for Title I or special ed and helps them. So, you know, the more interventions that we give those kids, the better off we are at getting them closer to being proficient and doing things that we need them to do.
We know that reading is really complex, and maybe one intervention will work for some kids, but it won't work for others. And so to have those different layers and different choices, so that our teachers and their PLCs can work together in teams and say, you know, this intervention might be really good for this student, but it's not working for this one, so let's switch it around and try something else.
The state has traditionally tried to hit all of this with a one-size-fits-all correction, which the retention at third grade is, and it's failed in other states, but we have to comply and we've got to do our best. You know, and these will give us, I think they'll give us the best chance of not having as many kids have to be either in summer school or be retained. Yes.
Oh, is that what you're saying?
No.
And it's a long time coming, we have, like I said, 12 years or what?
Oh,
since
yeah.
I've reading?
Yeah, you know,
So-
this district hasn't spent, in the last probably 5 years, I don't think there's been hardly anything spent on any curriculum.
Well, part of that is the split build, I mean, part of that was the split buildings. I mean, you know, one district, one building was on a different reading. I mean, so I mean, the positive of this is we're getting them, everybody on the same, at the same time.
Right.
I
and
mean,
we're taking care of-
unfortunately,
we're
it's
taking
been
care of
slower.
K-12, PK-12 actually.
Yeah,
so.
but I mean, that's part of it, because Green had, you know, Green building had different curriculum than Allison for a long time. So I mean, I think some of this is coming as a result of that.
Right, and both of those curriculums were purchased before the Iowa Core even existed. So they don't even come close to meeting the needs.
Right.
I make a motion to approve
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. 28E with Clarksville for new year.
This is just a continuation of what we've done this year. It just shares the teacher librarian with Clarksville. It says the same thing, not less than 0.1 FTE and not more than 0.2 FTE with Clarksville. It's the same contract we used last year,
Any questions about that?
or this year.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. IAEP purchase agreement.
The IEP agreement is basically done through it's an AEA purchasing cooperative for food service. It's just kind of a technicality. We're basically required to buy everything through them anyway. We just have to agree to the purchase date. What happens is we have to bid everything out and get 3 bids. They do all of that for us, so we don't have to worry about it.
And we're currently using them?
Yes. Yep.
And it looks like in any contract, they give back money.
They do. Yep. They give us back, and I think we got. I was thinking it was like 15,000 back this year. Or was it less than that? Maybe. I don't remember. It was a nice sum though. Maybe it was 5,000. Memory goes when you don't.
Any other questions? Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll approve.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Laptop replacement disposal.
We talked earlier about rotations on the MacBooks at the middle school and high school. Had Mr. Thompson get a quote on this. I also talked to the lawyer about disposal, because we discussed the possibility of selling the laptops to the seniors. We are able to sell the laptops to the seniors without advertising them. It was suggested by the attorney that we sell them to the seniors for $100 a piece, which would be, I think we have 42 seniors left in the building, nine that left. It would be 51 total, so, that'd give us about $5,100 to go towards the purchase of new ones. The new ones, there's 11, it would take 11 bundles, because we have about 55, well, we have 50, I think 51 or 52 kids coming into 7th grade next year. The bundles of 5 are $46.45 each. Well, didn't get the total purchase price on it. It's just
Isn't it 51,000?
uh,
51,095?
something like that.
Since
No,
that's-
he didn't,
I thought
oh
it
yeah,
was
there it is, I thought it was a dollar sign, sorry, yeah, it's $51,095. That would be it would be a 1 cent sales tax or capital purchase, and we would wait till after the 1st of July to order those. And then Mr. Thompson would shadow them for us here.
I have 2
Imogen.
questions. What do we do with the computers then? So the seniors' computers basically would phase out or get
Yep,
rid of?
then
What if they don't buy them? Like,
we would put them on, we'll have a rummage sale with all the stuff, and we'll put them on that offer.
we'll try to sell them just
Yep.
for $100.
Yep.
And is there any other thing we could, like, if a student doesn't have $100 but really would like to buy them, are there any organizations that we could tap into to help a student that wouldn't have $100?
I don't know, but that's a pretty good deal for a $1,000 laptop, they'll
Right.
purchase it for
But I mean-
$100. It has all their stuff on it from their 6 years, from 7th grade
Yeah.
through 12th grade, so I can't imagine there would be very
Especially
many
for
that,
school.
if they know it's coming.
Yeah,
we
and they're
start-
going to college.
Right, yep,
It's graduation, they'll get money.
that's true,
Yeah.
so,
I would think the majority couldn't afford, but there could be a few that.
right. And the nice thing with the Apple, with the MacBooks, is they do support them with software for quite a while.
So then the 7th graders, the ones that they.
The 7th graders would
They
come
just
in,
keep
and they would
those
keep those
the same way.
for 6 years, and then they would have the opportunity to purchase them at the end. And then we just know that we have to purchase more MacBooks every year, which we'll need to do anyway. 6 years is really projection life of them here for us.
And there's nothing on the computer that when it leaves the building is like a license or something that we
We'd have to have Mr. Thompson take some things off of them because they have our firewall and stuff installed on them, so that would have to come off.
Any other questions? A motion to approve the laptop replacement disposal.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
A second. Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Elementary technology purchase.
We had some discussion with the lower elementary teachers, with the new reading materials and other things that they need to do in the classroom. Some sort of device would be good for them. I know Heather's talked about quite a few of them. And I think the majority decided that the Chromebook would work best for what they do. The nice thing about the Chromebook is that, well, they don't save anything to it, but it allows them access to their Google Docs and everything. It allows internet access to get the reading materials and that. And they're about half the price of an iPad. It's got a regular keyboard on it so the kids can learn keyboarding. This is for 1st through 4th grade, correct, Heather?
It's through 2nd through 4th grade.
2nd through 4th grade. Okay, and then the iPads would go kindergarten
Move
first.
down.
Which would allow us basically to be one-to-one, right? So the 175 Chromebooks with the Google Chrome operating system comes to $43,459.50, and I would recommend that we purchase those, and that would again be a 1 cent or capital purchase after the 1st of July.
So with all the new reading stuff that we're getting, would this be compatible?
Yes.
That they could read online and?
Yep. The new reading materials can be accessed really from any device. They're pretty flexible. But also consider it with the understanding that a lot of our iPads, the older ones, are dying, and are gonna need, either the iPads are probably gonna need to be replaced, or Chromebooks would need to be purchased to kind of maintain what we have, at least. And the Chromebooks are about half the price of an iPad.
How long do they last typically?
The Chromebooks?
Yeah,
They're really meant to be a disposable device. If you can get 3 years out of them.
so it's like iPads in a sense, a little bit, except for it's got a keyboard.
Right.
And will these be left in the classrooms, left at school?
Left in the classrooms. Yeah. There'll be a charging card, kind of similar to how we do the iPads.
So how do you handle damage at that age?
Since they are a school device and they're just used at school, then
Okay.
we just handle
That's
the
all right. I'm
replacement
just
cost.
curious.
But because they're at school too and they're not going home,
Right.
we don't have as many.
We haven't had a lot of
We
accidents.
haven't had any.
No,
we are
I've
very-
had to replace 3 screens, at the cost of about $60 a piece for the 5th and 6th grade this year, and that's the
That's
only
good.
thing that we spent on
And
repairs for
then
them.
that's 2 really rambunctious classes.
Yeah.
It's pretty cheap.
What about our technology rotation program, like you said, though, do we have a calendar or something? Because now we have computers for the whole school, and that's an
We'll have
added
to-
expense, like
we'll have to put one
yearly,
together.
basically.
Yeah.
It'll be a yearly expense.
I mean, is it better to look at the iPads that we already have and update our technology before we purchase a bunch more, or we just wanna get one-to-one for everybody? Cause we really don't have that, we don't have that plan drawn out, you know, we talked about getting this plan of all of our expenses, and we're, yes, 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 but I don't see where, and I'm not against it, I'm not saying, I think it's a great thing for our kids to have that. But from a financial
Mhm.
Yeah.
perspective, it'd be nice for me to visualize like a calendar of, okay, you know,
Yeah.
expect this,
Well,
I don't
expect
have a
this,
calendar.
expect
I mean,
this.
pretty much every 7th grade is gonna get a new
Yeah.
laptop.
And we've already made that
So I
commitment,
mean,
so we're
yeah,
committed to
so I mean, that'll be
7
every
through
year.
12.
It's more the elementary
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah, cause we
Yeah.
don't have, you know, where are our devices at, which I know Heather, you know probably where they're at, but I'd like to see some kind of a rotation schedule and a financial report for the next 5 years, cause really we should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah, minus damages and stuff, but that's.
Right. This is kind of a facilities It's our 1 cent sales tax and our capital money. If we decide we're gonna replace those sections of roof that we talked about, then we got the laptop replacement we just approved, resealing the elementary roof. This sidewalk expansion at the high school, I'm not sure something we need to do. The tuck pointing repairs to Dallas, both buildings, we'll get to here in a little bit, but that's about $24,000, $25,000 less than what we thought it was gonna be. Then we have the drainage issue in Allison, sidewalks for, and doors for handicap accessibility at the elementary, key fobs, wireless upgrade we're gonna talk about in a little bit, the Chromebooks, the Commons windows, the stickers that you've seen on there tonight, the bond buy down, general obligation bond buy down yearly. Our total on that is $937,000 on all those projects, and there's some other small stuff. But then we have $450,000 in bus leases over the next 5 years. Our total projects over a 5-year period is $2.3 million. Our revenue over that same 5-year period is about $4.1 million. So we have some space, but I can definitely work on that for next month. That shouldn't be too hard to
Just be
put
good to
together.
know.
But that's kind of where we're at right now.
I
Just
mean,
so you know, and right now we have, like I said, we have a balance of right around $1 million between the two accounts.
you know, can we sell those iPads? I mean, even if it's $50, some
Yeah.
older folks might, and I'm not saying not just older folks, but I think, actually, I'll take that back, like my husband. Is on the
Well,
iPad.
older folks,
Yeah,
yeah, you said
Yeah,
that.
is on the iPad, just looking at the, you know, whatever, fishing and, but I'm just saying, we might be able to get some money out of those, even if they're not as
And
fast.
some of the problems with them are batteries and things like
Yeah.
that.
The ones we
they
can
be
sell, I think
replaced,
we
but
should
it's
try
worth it
to-
For us to replace that.
Sell, I mean,
Replacing the battery in an iPad is gonna be probably
No.
$100, and we
Right.
pay $2.25 for a
right,
for a
I get
Chromebook,
that.
so.
I'm just saying, the ones that you think, you know, like Liz is saying, maybe a rotation plan of,
Yep.
you know, let's get rid of these, you know, so many now because we can get $50, you know, or whatever it is, to try to help put it back.
Mhm.
And I mean, we knew when
When you started, yeah.
that this would be a big, ongoing
And,
commitment.
and I think really that we've gotten a lot of life out of the ones that,
Actually, I'm
We're
really
part of
shocked
the
that you
first
guys got 6 years, I mean, these are solid. You know, that's why I'm saying, not to spend more money down on the bottom half, but, you know, I guess you get what you pay for. That's the bottom line. You know, are we better off,
Well, the nice-
are we better off
and that's-
doing these down there and?
no.
I-
The
I
Chromebooks don't have as many moving pieces.
Okay.
So like if they drop them, they're not gonna ruin a hard drive,
Okay,
you know, those types of things.
Okay.
That's why they're,
A Chromebook versus an iPad, like, why are we doing Mac, and is that confusing, or that's easy,
Well,
or?
The big difference between a Chromebook and a MacBook would be that a Chromebook, you cannot actually download anything on it and get any software on it, it's all web-based. So it's basically just a hub for you to get online. Whereas a MacBook has downloadable applications, and you can do a lot more with it, like more, I guess, I don't know how to say it, it's a lot more hands-on type of stuff. So like if you wanted to actually edit a movie, you would be better off doing it on a MacBook. Whereas,
there's programs you can do it with the Chromebook, but it takes more steps because you're going online and you're not doing it right there. But as far as like the difference between the Chromebook and the iPad,
Well,
it
Chromebook
already has a
isn't a
cost.
tablet, is it?
no.
No,
It's actually a computer.
it's like, it's basically like a computer that doesn't
Okay.
have memory in it.
right,
It has a
so I mean, it's just,
Yep.
it's basically like an iPad in a sense.
Because like a kindergartner would be better off with a tablet.
Yes.
Or, you know, versus like,
Uh-huh.
Because kindergartner's not gonna be able to keyboard on it,
Right.
but they sure can manipulate those.
right.
Yep.
And like if we don't need, like if they aren't doing as much on it.
No, then we don't need
It's
them.
expensive
Right.
as a device.
Right,
Right.
And a lot of the stuff they're doing, especially mid to upper elementary, is within the Google Docs. And that's what they really easy access for us.
Mhm.
Okay.
Have a question? Well, do you wanna table this till he gets that?
When were we planning on purchasing?
After July 1st.
So could we wait another month?
How long is the quote good for?
we can get another one, that sounds good too.
That says March 27th.
I would say let's table it until we have that technology rotation and we can bring it back up next month. What do you think?
It's fine.
Because you said 5 years, that would be our revenue, but what if there's something changes and in
Well,
the revenue,
we
we don't
never-
have that much money coming in?
I think we always need to make sure that we keep about $200,000 in there in case, we don't ever spend below that $200,000 in case we have an emergency. $200,000 should cover
Two.
boiler.
Housing?
Yeah. That money's not there to just sit.
No, I get it.
For upkeep and stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll make a motion to table it?
Yes, I'll make a motion to table it for a technology rotation.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed the same. Motion carries.
I guess I will point out in the applicant, we did include a few extras just in case we have some kids coming in.
Wireless infrastructure updates.
Okay. Wireless infrastructure updates is for both buildings. This is part of our E-rate submission this year. We did get quotes on it from 3 different companies. 2 of them just quoted the equipment and not the installation. TC Networks is the only one that quoted materials and installation on it. Their total quote on this is $63,797.50. That's the total cost of this project. And that is to update the wireless infrastructure at both buildings now that we've expanded our broadband to be 100 megs at Allison and 80 megs up here because that's the most that we can get right now. We need to expand our wireless network so we don't have so much drag and lag time with the computers. But as long as our E-rate is taken care of and we filled everything out right, then this would be our actual price after the E-rate reimbursement. Our actual district responsibility would be $27,782 on this project. Heather can tell you more about what all the project entails because she's been working with TC Networks to set it up. But they helped with filling out the Form 470 as far as the E-rate and that. So don't have a whole lot of doubt that that'll go through.
And what fund would that come out of?
That'd be 1 cent sales tax again.
Now that's if it goes through?
If it goes through, it'd be $27,782.
So it's not a guarantee that it's gonna go through?
Not yet. We gotta get the other form done after, now that we've been, I think we've waited 28 days now. Then we gotta fill out the other form and then they'll let us know later on. Forward.
When are you thinking?
No idea.
Okay, good.
Like before summer or after summer?
It'd be a summer project.
I know, but I mean, when are you thinking we're gonna know?
Well, no, we should know before summer. I think we did last year.
So is it an issue to let these guys know later than now because they're busy?
Yes,
That's what I figured.
they're getting full and they'd like,
Yeah.
have penciled us in a spot, but they're very anxious about saving it for us.
When I penciled this into the infrastructure spreadsheet that I showed you a little bit ago, I penciled it in at the whole almost
Yeah, I saw
$60,000.
that.
And this will improve our wireless network greatly, right?
Yes.
I've heard there's some
Yep.
issues with.
There's a lot of issues.
Connecting and things like that.
My basic understanding of what our issue is we have plenty of bandwidth coming in. What we don't have is updated equipment to get it out to people, so our access points that are kind of like routers, they're outdated, kind of like a lifespan of a computer is 5 to 6 years. Well, there's so much that has happened to upgrades and improvements to these access points the last 5 to 6 years that they're just not performing like we need them to.
And so basically what's happening
So
is
it's to replace all those.
they choke that bandwidth off, so then only a portion of what we're supposed to be getting is actually getting through.
And we're still paying for the whole thing.
So the reality is, I mean, it's really an upgrade that we need to do whether we get the E-rate or not. Like today, I was up here today, and I was working on the board site actually, and it was taking several minutes for each page to load, and usually it's just a couple seconds.
Yeah, that'd be it.
Any other questions? May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor say aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Car tuck pointing and repairs.
Mark Yerkes had car tuck pointing come up and take a look at some things up here at the high school. They also looked at some things at the elementary school. About a year ago, actually been a year and a half now, we had a Randall Construction to come and look at some things before I got here. And they wouldn't give us a price on stuff other than to say the elementary itself was gonna cost probably at least $40,000 to repair. He left me a bunch of pictures of stuff that he thought needed to be repaired. I think they were kind of working us a little bit. So I told this guy when he came from Car Tuck pointing everything that this guy had pointed out to me, and he went around. If you look at this map here, this is the elementary school. These were the areas that they marked out that needed to be done. I do have pictures of it in the bid book he gave me if you want. But basically, total cost to repair the elementary is $4,152. I just included this. I was gonna approve it anyway, but I just thought I'd include it with all of it, since we had to bring the high school in for bid. But that one there itself is about $35,000 less than what he had quoted, just the other guy had quoted just for the elementary, and he wouldn't give us a number for the high school part of the job. And then we have, this is just a description of the work at the elementary. And then the high school has several different sections, and that's turned sideways. I'm not sure why I did that. But the two sections at the high school come out to about $13,000, a little over $13,000. I think the whole thing was about $17,000, if I remember correctly. I thought I had it written down somewhere. $17,592, thank you.
That's total for both?
That's total for both buildings, the work we need to do. There is still some stair work that we need to do here at the high school, on the entry to the old gym, and then the stairs that come up to the music room outside on the south end there. And I'm gonna meet with somebody from Schroeder's here in the next few days to talk about that, and then some sidewalks that we need at the elementary school also, I'll talk about a little bit. So I would recommend that we go ahead and approve these repairs from car tuck pointing. This is actual damage that really needs to be fixed. These guys, this is what they do for a living. They do nice work. I've talked to other people. It's the only company that they'll use for it.
Any other questions? A motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve tuck pointing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Ratify the master contract.
We can't do that tonight. We're still waiting. We just got an email late today from an attorney. We're working on some wording still. We've been working on the wording for, well, basically for the last month. And we're still trying to hammer it out. It's on some of the insurance and benefits things. Trying to figure out what we can and can't do in cooperation with the association. So as soon as we get that, we'll probably have to have a quick special meeting to ratify the contract so we can get the contract out to the teaching staff. But, you know, we've agreed on everything except that one little piece of wording, so.
And we actually agree on it, we just gotta
We just
figure
gotta
out.
figure out what it is and how to say it legally.
Yeah.
Approve the audit bids.
We had 2 audit bids. We got one from the state of Iowa, and they said basically that they don't want to do that. We thought we'd open it up to them just because of some of the issues that we've had in the past with our previous couple auditors. And then we got a bid from Nolte, Corman and Johnson, who is probably one of the best auditors in the state. Where's the page
It's like, we're at
Very last one.
Okay.
It says, one of them says just 1 year, and the other one is 3 years.
right here, right there.
at? Okay.
So it goes up $400.
Okay, total goes up $400 a year, it'd be a 3-year contract, $8,800 the first year, $9,200 the second year, $9,600 for the third year. I don't think it's a bad thing to get tied into that, and just, we don't know what costs are gonna do. I guess probably like the cost of doing business for them goes up every year, so.
$150 an hour, I'm on the wrong job.
That's for assistance with the certified annual, oh, the lawyers charge a lot more than that.
Oh, but they don't help me with that, so you don't
Yeah,
have to worry about that.
Shelley does
I
that.
understand.
We won't be charged.
Okay,
And that
good.
was like, it
Well,
said the
maybe I'll charge you
maximum we would
$150
spend, so it
an hour.
could potentially be less, right?
Yeah.
Because in there it said that's the maximum
Oh.
charge, so it could potentially be less, or do you think that will be the charge? Because I thought I read somewhere in there, it says, we will charge you no more than this, or something.
Shall not be more for more than, you know, that's what right there it says. I would guess it's
Are you
probably.
good with these
what
guys?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. That's all I need to know.
this is who she works with.
That's what I'm saying. If she's-
It would make it easier for me, just because then you have the same people telling me to do the same things.
Okay.
And I don't have two different auditors
Yep.
saying, well, it's okay to do it here, but it's not okay to do it there.
Okay.
They have a long list of schools too that they do.
Yeah, I
They
saw
do.
that.
Yeah.
This is who did the last school I was at too.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve,
Multi Corman and Johnson.
Multi, Corman and Johnson as our auditor.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same. Motion carries. Human resources, registrations, or resignations. I'm
We
sorry.
need to approve, thank you, we need to approve a resignation agreement with Nicole Jones. And then we need to approve a contract for Shandy Goldenberger as a strategist two in special ed at the elementary school.
What are her qualifications as strategist?
She's worked as an associate at River Hills for several years. She's become highly regarded. She just finished her student teaching. I think she did some of that at Waverly Shell Rock, correct?
She did, she finished her student teaching, I believe, in, semester, whatever, and has been substitute teaching, not for us, but in surrounding areas. And,
And what does that job entail? What would she be doing?
she'll be working with what's considered our level 2 special education students, so our students that have more significant special education needs. And, the state changed the law on that this year, and in order to, how do you say it? If you have a child that really cannot take the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, the Iowa assessments, and they need alternate assessments, the laws have changed now and they have to have a different licensure. So we're looking to hire a level 2. Level 2 people are very, very hard to find. This gal has her level 1, and we'll be able to get her a temporary license to get her level 2. So but we have to approve her for a level, we have to approve her hire before we can move forward with the paperwork for her to get her level 2. But yeah, she came with very good qualifications, including from her experiences at River Hills, which is similar clientele to what she will be similar type of work as to what she will be doing here, so, in this position.
Did you say you have to, how would you do that differently?
We could do some.
We do them together.
Okay.
And just so you know, the resignation agreement's actually for the same reason, because of the licensure thing. The state changed that licensure at the end of last year. So then the current teacher, Ms. Jones, is no longer licensed to do those things. And we need somebody to do those things.
So we didn't have another spot for her to be.
Would it be hard for her to get get her license, or what? Is she interested in
We'll
doing it?
talk about that later.
Can't discuss that.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll give a motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same. Motion carries.
Yeah. She's been sub.
Okay, all right, I couldn't remember if I had.
So anything else in the human resources?
Nope.
Okay. Administrative reports.
Do you have it there? Give me 1 second, I'm sorry, I'm loading. I can read it after there. I know I talked about this probably in February or March that it was coming up, but our elementary students participated in a reading program. Traditionally, they had done it at Green for many years, and I think in years past, they had done it at Allison as well, but not recently. So they went off the theme from the book fair, which was something like Peace, Love Books, and did a reading month. And it's kind of a good way to promote reading, but also to pick up the mundane March, we're tired of winter, yucky weather kind of thing, and put a little more spirit back in the building with something different to look forward to. So kids turned in reading slips, earned some initiatives, and did a fun finale project at the end of the month. A big shout out to the PTO for purchasing t-shirts that we used as an art project to tie-dye. They turned out great. I think Mrs. Purdy's fingers are now no longer tie-dyed after a long project of doing that. And when she came to me and said, we're gonna need like 20,000 rubber bands to do this, no problem. So I did bring mine because it was in my office. And so if you didn't happen to see him on Facebook, Mrs. Purdy taught them different ways to tie-dye, and then according to their grade level, they tie-dyed in different patterns, and then the upper elementary kids got to choose which design they did. So huge undertaking, I mean, huge, and it turned out really well. The kids had a great time, so. And thanks to the teachers too. Teachers gave up some of their prep period to help tie-dye, and different teachers helped plan the activities and supervise, and it was a lot of fun for the kids. We've had some concerts since our last board meeting. Hats off to Mrs. Brackett for a wonderful Parade of Bands concert. I thought it was phenomenal. The first and second grade had their specials night, and they also did an outstanding job. And we're looking forward to tomorrow night is the Vocal Spectacular, which is 5th through 12th grade vocal concert, as well as kindergarten specials night, which is next week, I believe. We had a nice turnout for parent-teacher conferences. We changed a little bit. We really had a lot of conversation about how we were going to do 5th and 6th grade parent-teacher conferences, because typically in the elementary conferences are scheduled, and they're all scheduled, and that gets really tricky when there's 100 5th and 6th graders, or 110, and 4 teachers, and if you're gonna go to every one, you need to have about 2-minute conferences. So at first, the first quarter, we had them just sign up with homeroom teachers, and then they could kind of hit and miss some of the others. And this time we shortened the conferences to more like 6 or 7 minutes, so they could go to different teachers and see more. And then if they wanted to schedule a conference that needed to be longer than that, then they had the opportunity to do that. So that seemed to go over well. It's always kind of hard to figure out at the first time around how to do it to best meet everybody's needs. So preschool registration is underway. We currently have about 50 slots filled. And so I say it like that because from time to time we have students that take up a couple spots because of special education needs. As of right now, that's about a 10 student increase or a 10 slot increase. So it appears that we have more. Packets were sent out. We had kind of online registration and people called in, and then we sent packets out, and parents are in the process of selecting their class preferences for next year. And I went through them right before I came over today, and the classes are fairly balanced. I didn't know how, you always worry that everybody's gonna want Monday, Thursday, or everybody's gonna want this session. Mr. Foster and I had a lot of conversation about maybe changing some of the options that we've offered. So with our 4-year-old preschool, we've always either offered Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday, or something similar to that, which were all-day programs. And one of the problems that we had with this year is that Mrs. Landers taught a Monday, Thursday class and a Tuesday, Friday class, and then Mrs. Schmidt also taught a Monday, Thursday class, so we had another extra section that way. Typically, students with IEP needs, either 4-year-olds or 3-year-olds, because when a student turns 3, we are required to start doing their special education needs. They get it at home from birth to 3, and then the day they turn 3, they're allowed to come to public school. The problem that we have is the kiddos that are on IEPs come every day instead of just 2 days a week. That's part of how we give them additional instruction. And so the way it's set up now, all of those kids are, in a sense, kind of forced into Mrs. Landers' room because she's the only one teaching every day. So we had a lot of conversation of how can we meet kids' needs so that it doesn't feel like all the special education kids are always in the same room. If we would not have made some adjustments or some changes, it would have appeared that Mrs. Landers next year would have had quite a few special education students. And a lot of times when they're little like that, they have a paraeducator, because if they're 3 or 4, they're often, if they're special needs, often, not always, but often are not potty trained. And we have some of those other issues. So it would have looked like Mrs. Landers would have had about 5 adults in her classroom next year, which is not practical, and it's not what's best for the kids either. So this way we're going to have one class that will do morning preschool that will meet from 7:45 to 1, and the other classes will be 2 days a week, Monday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Friday. So that way we'll be able to balance our special education numbers out and best meet the needs of our kiddos. So, And right now, those numbers are coming in, I couldn't be more excited that they're very balanced. Like I said, I was really afraid they were all gonna pick the morning session, or they were all gonna pick one, but they're almost equal, so that's nice. So, kindergarten packets will be going home soon. The bulk of the kiddos that come to us for kindergarten are currently in our preschool program. However, we do pick up some kids from Head Start or from other preschool programs, so I've been starting to get notified of some of those, and I'll get those in the paper this week as well. And then I also just have you probably read different places, it's been in both newspapers as well as our newsletters and blogs, as a congratulations to Mrs. Tracy for being nominated and named a runner-up for the Iowa State Education Association Teacher of the Year. And we're very fortunate to have teachers like Mrs. Tracy on staff, and a thank you to Scott and Billy Buss for nominating her for that award. So it's quite an honor to have her selected for that. So, and I think that's all I have from the elementary. I don't have a report from Dan. I don't know.
Yep, Mr. Huff, I had a friend come in from Florida over the weekend, and we're seeing him off tonight, so he's been gone, basically don't have a report from him.
Thank you, Mrs. Rankin.
You're welcome.
We've gotten some STEM grants through the Iowa Governor's STEM Initiative, just so that you can see some of the teachers that are implementing some new programs next year. We have Mary Beck and our 3 kindergarten teachers are gonna be doing a program called Making STEM Connections. Basically what they're gonna get is a kit with some makerspace type materials to do some hands-on type projects where students get to create and kind of tinker around and learn through play and discovery. Mr. Vanderloop is going to take on engineering as elementary, which is just some units to incorporate into what he already uses. There'll be some project-based type activities. Mrs. Paulus is up for science and global issues, biology, and what she gets is she gets to select a unit that will help again supplement one of hers that she already does. And Mr. Miller will be taking on the Introduction to Computer Science course next year at the high school. It is a semester course, and if you would like more information about those programs, that link will take you to all of the information that you could possibly ever want, and then some. You might have known about this one, I haven't put it in yet, but maybe Mr. Foster did earlier. We have gotten about $1,200 from the Butler County Community Foundation to purchase a 3D printer. That's not going to cover the entire cost probably of what we're going to order, so we're looking for other grants that are out there to help us with that. If you get any that you see, please send them in my direction. And we are also working on a grant from the America's Farmers Grow to create an aquaponics system, which is kind of a fish farm with a garden on top that uses the fertilization from the fish. That will be part of our science and ag classes, if we get that. Some of the training and PD we've done recently, 48 of our teaching staff attended the Iowa One-to-One Institute on April 6th to learn new technology integration strategies and tools, which is a great opportunity if we have all of these devices to continue to learn and develop technology skills to use in the classroom. And tomorrow, coming up, we have I guess I could look at my own computer and try instead of reading that. The Launching Teacher Leadership Workshop in Des Moines tomorrow, which will include our instructional coaches and admin team, so that we can really start to work on what exactly it's going to look like next year. We have a really good plan, now we just need to start working on the implementation part, so we're excited for that tomorrow.
Thank you, Mrs. Paul.
Just add on that, in talking to our instructional coaches, both of them are really excited to get started, and they're really antsy to get down there tomorrow and find out more about it. 'Cause this is actually going to be their first exposure to the whole TLC process other than what we've done. We've been approved for the summer lunch program, both sites this year. Been working with Kim a lot. I think we got it figured out where all the food will be probably made up here in Green. We'll have 2 people up here to make the food, and then one will take it to Allison site, so we'll have 2 staff on each day. All the food will be made up here, and then we'll just serve it in both locations. Still working on a couple of different options for the roof up here at the high school. I'm still looking, I think, about the $300,000 range like we've talked about. I'm still waiting to hear back on the rest of the drainage issue at the elementary. The sump pump did get installed, which led to some findings of electrical issues underneath that room. So Will Weddeking's been in there and replaced all the electrical that's on underneath it and ran it over top. I'm looking at some different options on the flooring at the elementary. We were originally looking at just the VCT tile, and then I started talking to Shelley, and when the teachers went over to Hampton Dumont to look at some of the SIPS program, they have some different tiles. It's more of a rubbery tile, and it's something that you don't have to seal and strip every year. I think it does a little bit better with noise than the VCTs. It's a little more expensive, so we're looking at that right now. Talked to Jeff Drawley about it. Drawley's won't install it, but he gave me the name of a guy in Fort Dodge that will. So he's coming to see me sometime yet this week, and we're still working with Joe. I talked to Amanda today to have Joe get a hold of me with some of that, because I have the sample books that that Mohawk left at Clarksville. But it's something that, it's really a nice product. I think it would work well for us. I think it would save us money in the long run as far as labor and products to seal it and strip it and all that. Like Heather said, the project lead the way. We're going to expand into the high school with the intro to computer science this year. We got the grant and the other grants. Thanks to Heather for all her work on getting those grants set up and all the work she's done with that. And the grant through the Butler County Foundation, that was a lot of her work too. We're going to need to install some sidewalks down at the elementary for the playground for our handicapped kids. We'll take one from the back door by the second grade classrooms out to where the basketball court is, and then we'll take it also around to the preschool playground, so they have better access. They're not slopping through the mud and all that in the winter. I emailed Dan Schroeder last week, and he sent me an email back. They'd have somebody get a hold of me this week, and we talk about that. And then we also need to look at the steps up here that need to be repaired, both on the back of the band room and the entryway to the old gym. Talked to Steve Bussey at length the other day. We found out at one point here a few months back that we had a safe deposit box at the bank here in Green. When the rent came due on it, we couldn't find a key, and we were going to have it drilled out, and then Sarah called from the bank and said that they found a key, so I went down and we emptied that out, and there was a lot of abstracts and things in there. So Steve Bussey has them now, and he's looking at them to see what they're for. I can't read an abstract, so he's looking into that for us. But we also talked, he and I talked, we're still waiting to hear back from the DOT on the